Nate here with the Kai Studio, and today we're going to be discussing the NCR within Modifius Entertainment's Fallout Wasteland Warfare. Cue that intro music. Oh, wait, we don't have intro music. Oh well. The NCR, also known as the New California Republic, is one of the most beloved factions within the Fallout universe. It has been in nearly every single Fallout game, and in those it does not physically show up, it is mentioned in some shape or form. It can be seen as one of the largest and most powerful factions the series has ever seen. The New California Republic started out as a small town with only a few people taking shelter within its walls, attempting to battle off scorpions living in the hills just outside of it, and to grow to be the true power in the West. I would state that before the TV show and the events in which take place within it, the NCR was the most powerful faction within the West Coast and was rivaled only by the Legion come the year 2277 during the first battle of Hoover Dam. For it is by this time Navarro had been reclaimed, pushing out the Enclave from California, and the defeated Brotherhood of Steel pushed underground in California and elsewhere. At its base, it has always been meant to be a republic, bringing peace and some normalcy within the wasteland that was once California, Nevada, and parts of Mexico. It is here we will discuss such actions, both its rise and fall, and more importantly, how the faction within Wasteland Warfare works via a rules overview and example lists, and closing out with my comments on the faction within the game. Let's get started. Then Fallout 1, after saving the town from the Scorpion menace and helping provide the much needed tools for them to form some type of antivenom, you are requested at behest of the head of Shady Sands, Aradesh, to save his beloved daughter, Tandy, from the Great Khans. It is upon her safe return does the player truly affect the start of what would become the NCR. The New California Republic would be first based out of Shady Sands, which, for all intents and purposes, would be its capital and its first city, to which it would remain so till its destruction via nuclear hellfire in the year 2283. In the closing slides of Fallout 1, it is revealed that the NCR would be founded by Aradesh, and by his guiding hand, it would take the first steps to become it. And his daughter Tandy would follow his path and forge the nation into what we know now as the NCR, or at least who they would appear within the events of Fallout 2. It is also within Fallout 1 that the NCR and the Great Khan's fates would become intertwined forevermore. It would be officially founded in the year 2189 after its proposal by Aradesh in 2186. It would be made up of the following states, if you will: Shady, Maxon, Los Angeles, which to me should just be called the Boneyard, the Hub, and Dayglow. The Hub was the last to join of the 5 states, with a rather slim majority choosing to join the growing nation. It should also be stated that while Dayglow would officially be a part of the NCR in 2189, it would not be fully integrated into the NCR until 2196, something that is depicted within the currency of the NCR. In fact, the $100 bill depicts that. It is Tandy that is credited with helping this take place, as she is depicted on the $100 bill, giving the speech of Dayglow's unification, and this is actually shown within Fallout New Vegas. Something I find rather interesting within the states is that the state of Maxon is near Lost Hills and is protected by the Brotherhood of Steel, who they themselves have not fully joined the NCR, but were an ally of the NCR at this time. Fallout 2, the player, upon entering what was known as Shady Sands, is where we first encounter this new power within the wasteland. And it is via the players and Tandy's actions that you can help further expand its borders, always with the drive of taming the wasteland and bringing stability to the great state of California. In and in turn, parts of Nevada as well. It is here where Vault City, aka the smug assholes from Vault 8 that gave us the delight, Richard Moreau, and New Reno would first appear within Fallout. These would be rival powers to Tandy's New Republic, but due to the actions of the Chosen One, events would be set in motion that would change that. Vault City would be targeted by both the NCR and New Reno as possible new expansions for their growing domains. For the NCR, another safe, prosperous city that can help grow the new California Republic. And for the families of New Reno, a city with money to exploit via their illicit goods and services. Vault City would, sometime after the events of Fallout 2, join the NCR, to in part due to requesting protection against the increased raider gangs raiding it. They would, of course, send aid, the NCR that is, and after assisting Vault City, they kind of would convince Vault City to join the new California Republic, of course. Good old fashioned expansionism. Now, with that said, Vault City was failing and badly needed the NCR to assist them in their survival. They needed that protection. They needed supplies of goods that they could not produce themselves. They were over expanding their ability to produce what they needed to survive. I guess being elitist assholes might not be the best option in the wasteland. Something of note I wanted to share. In one of the ending slides, Fallout 2, it states that Vault City stays independent. But considering everything else that has taken place and said, I doubt that took place. I see Vault City as more than likely becoming a principality with an ambitions of becoming its own state instead of just a part of the northern territories of the new California Republic. In some weird way, I see Vault City kind of like the Luxembourg of Fallout, as meaning a independent principality. But no, we can discuss that at a later point. Now, New Reno, once in control by the Bishop family, would seek an alliance with both Vault City and the new California Republic, which in turn would result in them joining the NCR down the line. New Reno would become a major power within the NCR upon joining it. I've always seen New Reno as the true rival to both Shady Sands and the Hub compared to, say, Vault City or Dayglow. This is in part due to the vast money that flowed between the families that controlled that city. And as we all know, money does lead to political power, even if the state claims not to be corrupt and the state is filled with the noblest of ideals. Also, after Fallout 2, the city of Redding would join. This would provide the new California Republic with much needed mining operations and raw resources to help grow their budding nation. It is also implied that somewhere within between within the events of Fallout 2 and New Vegas, that Arroyo itself would join the NCR in some shape or form. But I don't recall anything that hammers this in point, like a not exact date. So I could just be like, oh yeah, I read that on Reddit. But I do remember seeing it somewhere. I just can't remember where. Now, sometime after the events that take place at the oil rig, the NCR would march on the Enclave base within Navarro. Sometime before the events of Fallout New Vegas, it would be overran, wiping out the Enclave forces there and forcing any survivors to scatter to the wind. I should note that Navarro is a real place within California. Well, its location, that is, and it's north of San Francisco. Does this mean that San Fran and the She joined the NCR? I'm honestly not fully sure. I would like to think that my home city joined the budding republic. Yes, I would like to think that San Francisco joined the rest of the NCR. Now, within Fallout 3, the NCR, well, it doesn't show up, as clearly it's set in Washington, D.C., and not the West Coast. But we get the first hints of the NCR Brotherhood War. If I'm not mistaken, Elder Lyons makes a comment about being unable to reach the Lost Hills bunker, which is within the state of Maxon back in the NCR. The Brotherhood NCR War, or the NCR Brotherhood War, depending on how you wish to phrase it, was, well, in part because of the stupidity of the Brotherhood. And yes, I'm taking sides with the NCR on this one. It's not just because I'm from the great state of California. The Brotherhood has this need, this doctrine, that they must safeguard humanity from the horrors of pre war technology, be it robo brains, nuclear warheads, or, a toaster. Just something to heat up some waffles. No, 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 you don't get to enjoy waffles because it's technology, and who knows what you'll get up to with a toaster. Maybe, you'll find muggy. The Brotherhood were, look, we got the guns, we got the armor, and firepower to slap you around if you start some shit. NCR went, cool story, bro. We just wiped out the major forces of the Enclave in the area, and we got something you don't have. Bodies. Lots and lots of bodies. And a lot more firepower. You might have Gatling lasers and laser rifles, but you got what, 5 dudes, my guy? We got 100 assault. We got 100 with assault rifles. One bullet might not pierce your power armor, but 1,000 will. And yeah, that's basically how it went. I mean, that did not go well. Also, something that should also be stated, the Brotherhood are not big fans of mutants of any shape or form, almost to the Enclave's level of dislike. I mean, like, it's, eh. And within the NCR, there are former members of the Master's armies. There's ghouls, and you have the slags. They're all treated fairly, or at least are meant to be, as the NCR did pass laws into trying to keep mutants and ghouls safe. I mean, Dayglow is literally formed by survivors of Necropolis. So, like, yeah, they're a large chunk of the NCR, and the Brotherhood of Steel was kind of like, hey, what you doing with those non-humans? And it's like, but, well, there are bigots out there, so, that must have robbed those knights the wrong way. I mean, this war was bad. I mean, it did result in the NCR's gold reserve being hit by a radiological weapon, making the gold unusable and forced the NCR, at least for a time, to turn back to the old classic bottle caps. And again, each bottle cap is worth a gallon of fresh water, which in a wasteland, clear water is worth more than gold. Can you imagine where water, the one thing you truly need to survive within the wastes, is mostly tainted with chemicals and radiation of all sorts, from the horrors of the pre-war rainwater being nearly poisonous? So yeah, fresh water would be pretty valuable to the people. It should also be stated that this basically tanked the NCR's economy, something that they're kind of struggling with up into the events of New Vegas. Like, when the NCR's cash reserves just get annihilated by the Brotherhood of Steel because they're like, fine, we're going to lose this on the ground. We're going to hit you the other ways that we can. And by using this radiological weapon on what is the equivalent to their Fort Knox, they knock out all currency. Like, the NCR no longer has to, have the backing for their money. So people were running into exchange for what they could. The shortage of gold that was available, again, resorted back into using the old cap cash system that existed in Fallout 1. So things were not going pretty well. But the NCR basically forced the Brotherhood to run and hide, many of them going back to their hidden bunkers to rise up again. I mean, you see this very clearly within the Mojave after the events of Operation Sunburst, where the NCR gained control over both Hoover Dam and Helios 1. In part, the player can help bring an end to this conflict, at least within the Mojave, depending on their choices they take within the game, because, after all, Fallout is a game of choices. It's also due in part to this conflict that the NCR gains many suits of power armor, which is worn by the NCR heavy troopers, both seen in the tabletop and in the Fallout New Vegas. Though it's unpowered,
which raises questions I cannot answer. Like, how does the armor work? How, like, because that's heavy. That, I mean, it's not a light armor. So these dudes are like either Arnold or just, doing it. But yeah, so now off into the Mojave. It is within Fallout New Vegas that the NCR would return. The New California Republic was one of the three major factions within that classic game. The NCR, though, had gone through many changes between the events of Fallout 2 and those of Fallout New Vegas. After losing the guiding, carrying hand of Tandy, due to her being ousted from power and her death shortly thereafterwards, the NCR fell under the sway of the Brahmin Barons and began to use its military as a way to enforce its will to some extent. It is revealed that within Fallout New Vegas, that the NCR had been able to claim both Helios 1 and Hoover Dam, along with sweeping through the Vegas area, pushing many a raider gangs and other tribals further out into the wastes to meet their fate, and beginning its work to bring Vegas into its stewardship. This would, well, yeah, not go the way the NCR wanted, in part because they clashed with the other major power within the Mojave. That, of course, would be the Legion, under the command of Caesar, or as they call it, Kaiser's rulership. This clash would take place after the NCR would sign the Rangers Unification Treaty. This would unify the NCR Rangers with the Desert Rangers that patrolled Arizona and other parts of the Mojave. For the Desert Rangers had faced off against the Legion before, and unfortunately, Arizona was conquered by the Legion, pushing the Desert Rangers, who sought to help the people and bring a better wasteland. The Legion crushed them, drove them before them, and they knew alone they could not stand against the might of the Legion. And as the Legion says, Ave, true to Kaiser. This, of course, would help the NCR in defeating the Legion in the first Battle of Hoover Dam, for now they had knowledge and experience on their side. And remember, as G.I. Joe says, knowledge is half the battle. Now, the NCR had to battle both the Brotherhood and the Legion upon entering the Mojave. But luckily enough, Mr. House did not reveal his hand yet, for he sought to collect the caps and money of this new power emerging into his domain. But the NCR would find a foe that threatened it once before it was even founded. That's right. The raider tribe that kidnapped Tandy back in her younger years had endured. Well, at least till the events of Bitter Spring. But that's a very difficult subject for another time. But that's right. The NCR had to face off against the Khans once again. The Khans were still around, and they waged a war against the NCR as they entered the Mojave, which again did not end well for them. It should be stated that the NCR did control large tracts of land, but were never able to truly show its might, due in part to having large chunks of its military in California assisting the robber barons, or as the game calls them, the Brahmin barons, and in Baja due to its expansion into Mexico at that time. Now, we know nothing of Baja and what was going on there, so maybe they were battling off a new terror that invaded the wasteland. Or maybe it was the Master's army was reforming. But I'm going to bet it was nothing like that, and Campbell sent them to make some Congress member's donor feel safe, because, you know, that's kind of how things go sometimes. Now, I'm going to take a quick second and address a few things that I mentioned before.
Before the game, the NCR did defeat the Great Khans, but sadly it would result in the Bitter Springs Massacre, which was a war crime, as mentioned before. This broke them, and depending on the player's actions, will lead them into aiding with Caesar's Legion. And sadly, that would result in the Great Khan's death, which the TV show has kind of vague on which side won the Second Battle of Hoover Dam. I mean, I got my theories, but the Khans do show up. Also, the NCR brought prison labor to the Mojave, which resulted in the powder gangers, something that once again the player must deal with. The NCR really seemed like an unwelcome party within the region, due in parts of their actions and the behavior of many elements of the NCR, like the likes of the Van Graffs and the famed Crimson Caravan. You can see the NCR is trying to help the people of the Mojave, but overall just don't really know what they're doing at times and can't really spare the manpower to assist the communities that they want to help in any meaningful ways, due in part to it being an active war zone. Which, let's be honest, makes sense. I still believe that the NCR is the best option for the wasteland, especially within the Mojave. In part because the elements that care for the people, the fact that when you speak to many of the members of the NCR proper, they seem to care and are just annoyed at resource allocation. Which I do blame House, the Brotherhood of Steel, Caesar's Legion, and the Raider gangs. Like, if the NCR did not have to deal with the Fiends, would it actually be able to assist the people of Freeside? Which, again, we all know how the Fiends got their equipment from the Van Graffs, working against their better interests in the long term. I mean, I always get the fact that the NCR and the King, if they stopped feuding, they really could have made something great for Freeside. Because then again, he's the king. Also, something that should be stated is the NCR military are a bit arrogant, as they defeated the Legion sailing the first Battle of Hoover Dam. They are full of themselves, seeing the Legion as a force that does not adapt to the enemy, which, yeah, no, they do. They also have massive firepower, and they have spies everywhere. Besides their brutal tactics, they they engage in asymmetrical warfare, something that honestly I feel the NCR are not good at. And yes, they have the Rangers, which are beyond good at their job, but the Fulmentari are next level. And again, large tracts of their military are dealing with issues that the Brahmin barons seem to be more important than a war front. Which, unfortunately, that is a could lead to the NCR's death. It is also within the DLC Honest Hearts that we learn of the Divide. And with its destruction, it partly crippled the NCR's ability to bring troops into the Mojave from NCR. And should the player choose to, they can further harm the NCR's ability to bring forces and equipment within the Mojave. It is also in the Divide that you engage the Burned Men, who still wear their former faction's armor. And you can see that some of them were once soldiers of the NCR, and that, of course, of Caesar's Legion.
So we don't really have a canon ending for Fallout New Vegas, as there's been no game since then. But what we do have is the Fallout TV show, and I want to take a quick moment to discuss how the NCR was represented within that show. And this is a little bit more off the cuff than normal, so I do want to state spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen season 1 or season 2, I'm going to spoil a bunch of it, and I apologize. But again, this is a video on the NCR. So, the NCR in the TV show is basically destroyed. At least that's how it's implied in season 1 with the destruction of Shady Sands in the year 2283. You just see that it's gone due to a nuclear weapon, which we turn out is one character in the show is doing because his wife left him. We're introduced into Moldover, who's leading a remnant group of the NCR. They battle with the Brotherhood of Steel at the end of the season, and it almost feels like, is this the last ditch of the NCR? Is this how the NCR dies? And I kind of took it as maybe just the boneyard and Shady fell apart and the rest of the NCR is fine. That's kind of been my head canon, is that the rest of the NCR is fine. And then in season 2, we, are in the Mojave. And, we see that the Mojave's gone to shit. And you can speculate, did the mist from the Sierra Madre come down? Did the tunnelers happen? Did Caesar's Legion win? Did Yes Man win? Like, what happened? And again, a lot of speculation. The show doesn't do a lot to answer those questions. I mean, we get some of them answered. But I feel like that's because the show is being shown from a micro and not a macro experience, because we're just seeing it from those two characters, well, three characters' point of views. But inside of the show, man, we get to see the NCR in a state where, honestly, it has never been in any of the games. I'd say even Shady Sands back under Aradesh in the first game was a little bit better. You see that the Rangers have been just depleted when we see them inside of the show. They're talking about how they need, they're waiting for supplies from Shady Sands. When we see the flashbacks of Shady Sands, we see the NCR marching through the city. We see the NCR flag flying. We see that Shady Sands is not just a tiny walled city, that it truly became more closer to a modern city. And then it was gone in atomic hellfire. But it is in that season 2, man, when Maximus is fighting against the Death Claws, and you see the sniper shot from the NCR Ranger, that everything's going to be good. And you just see the NCR returning. So, from what we know, is that elements of the NCR has survived within the TV show's universe. Now, the question is the TV show canon with the games? Is it its own universe? That I can't really answer right now. Because there's some things that I'm hoping, we'll get more answers to. I'm not really sure how I feel about it yet. I've been enjoying the show. But yeah, so that was the quick thing I wanted to mention, is that we see that the NCR in the TV show is on the back foot. It is trying to recover. It then finally sends troops into Vegas, and we get the sense that the NCR is back. And, that's great. So we don't know what happened at the end of New Vegas. We do know that the NCR had some difficulties with Shady Sands getting destroyed, and the constant warfare has drained their resources, but they have been able to return again, which is awesome. So now on to the NCR's faction rules. The NCR have a pretty simple rule, which I actually think is a pretty good rule. I've played with it and played against it. I usually play against it. So the unit, basically the rule works as such. Units that show NCR under their unit name have the following. When an NCR model with repair token is the target of a shoot action, the NCR model may discard the repair token to add one piece of cover against the shoot action. This can be declared after the attacking skill test is rolled, similar to using luck to dodge. Cannot be used at the same time as using luck to dodge. Basically, you can't stack them. This basically provides dodge to models without luck. Hit the deck, soldier. It's incoming fire. I actually really like this ability. It really makes you want to have as many actions that you can possibly have spare. You want to kind of maximize the ability to do that. That will affect unit selection, equipment selection, and weapon selection. It's not a offensive ability like the Zaytan's teleport. It's more of a defensive one. But if you think about it, the NCR is supposed to work as an army, um, more than like a kill team or a strike force. So this is representing that army training. And when you combine it with some of the units that are available to the NCR, it really works out pretty well. Now, before discussing the units, I want to talk about really quickly some items that are somewhat unique to the NCR, but also, NCR themed. So the first one is the first recon beret. It's an item of clothing, which gives +1 to shoot actions with rifles. It includes +1 luck. It also gives you 1 crit token, and on 1 weapon, and also you get 1 green die to be used in conjunction at any time. So that's pretty cool. I really like that. It gives you like an extra. It's really good for sniper builds, which you will be seeing in the list designs. Then you have the NCR Ranger jumpsuit. Now, this is not unique, nor is the first Recon Beret, and they're not limited. Other people can take them as well. I like this one because it allows you to have some objective play and makes models better at playing those objectives, which is really good. Again, I see it as another way of representing the NCR as an army. The next thing I want to discuss is the NCR emergency radio. This one I think is pretty cool. It's a one use only, and it's a maximum of one per force, and it can only be used by like an NCR model or a model with the NCR leader ability. So it can't be used outside of the NCR. You place the bottle cap token next to a model using the radio. At the end of the next round, select one model in line of sight up to red from the model with a cap. Resolve the attack on the following target. So basically, you get a free shot, representing you're getting that ranger close support firepower, which is kind of cool. You then have the Ranger, well, not Ranger. The next thing you have is the NCR Salvaged Power Armor. This is representing what the heavy troopers are usually equipped with. You'll notice that it has no broken version of it. It just has the standard because, again, it's non-powered. It does give you, the advantages of having a higher endurance, but it does reduce your agility. And it only gives you 3 armor against physical, 3 armor versus defense, and 4 armor against radiological or radiation damage. No, this is not the power armor that Maximus was wearing in Season 2. This is, again, the Heavy Troopers power armor from Fallout New Vegas. Next up is the Ranger Battle Armor, which I think isn't bad. Increases your luck, gives you 2 to physical / ballistic and energy damage, which isn't bad. I'm actually kind of surprised that they're calling it Ranger Battle Armor instead of the Riot armor that we know that it's called in Fallout New Vegas, in part because that's how it's identified. It's not called Ranger Armor. It's interesting that Modiphius chose to represent it this way. Then you have 2 unique weapons that are very much NCR. One being the anti-material rifle, which is a single shot per activation weapon. And when it hits, man, does it hit. I think it's pretty good. If you're going to take it, try to use someone that's heroic so you can really take advantage of the crit factors of the weapon itself, simply because of the fact that, it's one shot a turn. So, you shoot it once, turn 1, turn 2, you shoot again, turn 3, if you're not engaged already, you want that critical hit. So it's definitely something to take into consideration when upgrading people to heroic. Next up is the Ranger Sequoia, that big bad revolver that the Rangers are seen with. I think it's great. 3 damage, black range, blue. If you roll star, you stun or break a limb. I think that's really, really good. The Ranger Sequoia and the anti-material rifle being unique is very interesting. I will admit, when I first started playing the game, I made a lot of mistakes with them and kept giving comfortable grip to the Ranger Sequoia. And then one of my friends was like, "You know, it's a unique item, right?" I was like, "Oh my God, whoops! I didn't even notice that. My bad." But these are just kind of the fun things. I wanted to share these items when discussing the rules for the NCR because you're going to see a lot of it in lists that are built for the NCR, and these are very iconic items within the NCR's arsenal. So now let's look at the units that the NCR have access to. They have a limited selection of units compared to, say, the Survivors or even the Brotherhood of Steel, but they do have more than the Zadians, so that's kind of a nice thing. Now, starting with their named characters, as you can see here, you have General Lee Oliver. I almost said John Oliver. You have the Lieutenant, you have Chief Hanlon, and you've got Boone. They're very pretty much simple. Oliver leads, the Lieutenant snipes, Boone snipes, Hanlon is there getting in the mix. Pretty simple. Now, what's interesting is you do have a second set of named characters. One being, obviously, the Courier, because why wouldn't he be? Or she be there. And then Moldover. Actually, it's kind of cool that they added her into the game and put her as a member of the NCR instead of a raider. I know some people were hoping that she'd be put in as a raider. Honestly, she can be worked as a raider, but I'm glad that you have access to her as a member of the NCR. So she does both. A lot of people just wanted her to be a raider, but I'm glad that she's got that NCR tag. She's actually pretty good. Then you have a couple of different flavors of Rangers. Surprise, surprise. You have the NCR Civilian Ranger, who's built to be kind of more your all around guy. Has probably he's got decent objective play compared to the Patrol Ranger. Not as good as the Veteran Ranger, but you do pay for that. The Patrol Ranger is kind of your elite trooper. They're not bad, really good at shooting, basic. And then you have the Veteran Ranger, who, for them, the anti-material rifle and the Ranger Sequoia are not unique. So that means you can take multiples of those in a list that you have a Veteran Ranger in. Overall, the Rangers are going to be your objective players. These are the guys that are going to be handling the objectives for you, and also who are going to be doing the sniping and more like combat. Then you have the troopers. These are actually not bad. They're pretty basic. They come in essentially four flavors. One I'm throwing in as a trooper, and that is the first recon sharpshooter. Um, Specialist sniper rifle ignores one cover at long range. It can always shoot the thing it wants to when in close combat. You're going to notice that the NCR is not a close combat faction. They want to sit back and fire at you and take return fire to take advantage of their rule set. Then you have the NCR heavy trooper. This is your heavy weapons guy. Pretty simple. Even though the NCR heavy troopers traditionally in power armor, seen in power armor doesn't mean he's a close combat expert. He's actually pretty bad at it. The MP is probably the better one at shooting. It's actually also the better objective player, at least when it comes to hacking, compared to the baseline trooper. I feel that an NCR force is built around the troopers, and then the commanders are added in. So your force should be made up of NCR trooper MPs or NCR troopers. You could also do a full ranger force. That is very possible because you do have the flexibility. But again, the NCR wants to be shooting, wants to be playing their benefit. They do not want to be charging into close combat. And now let's discuss the example army lists. The first one I'm calling For the Republic. It's built around the idea of the first battle of Hoover Dam, or it could also be used to represent the second one, depending on how the players want it to go, or how you want to use it. But basically, it's as simple as this: I have General Oliver as the leader. He's built a lead. Then you have a first recon sniper, baseline sniper, basically designed to work independently. Then you got Boone, doing Boone things. You have a heavy NCR trooper that's there to sling the missiles. Then you have an NCR baseline trooper for radio and objective play. And then you have two baseline NCR troopers. The force is built around having quite a few number of troops, and I was counting it kind of while I was saying this, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 7 models on the board, so you've got a lot of troops, a lot of things out there. But General Oliver's ability is very, very important to this force. All right, and let's take a look at this leader. So the first one is going to be General Lee Oliver. He has his ability is actually pretty cool. He has tactical, -2 models for the -2 of the total models when going for advantage, but when he is dead, you get plus. It increases it by 2. Basically, you reduce the model count so you can try to keep you having the initiative. And then command once per activation. He may spend 1 action of his actions for 1 engaged friendly model within his presence to perform that action instead. So you can really kind of get a lot of quick actions done with him. I have him upgraded with the commander leader card, which gives him the ability to resist Warcry on a +2 for everyone, which the faction is kind of lacking. And then also, when the leader is activated, add a Coke bottle. So there are not Coke bottle. Add a cap token. So there's 2 of them on the model, and then you can discard 1 to give 1 gear icon to a friendly model within presence during their activation. Leader cannot use these the tokens for themselves, but this allows you to give your units more actions, or more quick actions, which means more prepared actions, which means you can use that dodge ability more. And he's fairly low equipped for how I usually do commanders. Just stock combat armor, good old fashioned 44 Magnum revolver with that comfortable grip, and a stim pack. Pretty simple, pretty basic. You're taking him not for this combat prowess, even though he does have a perception of 7 and an agility of 7, so he could get stuck in. You're taking him for that command to benefit because you need him to stay alive, but you want him away from the front. You just want him to kind of casually be moving up. Speaking about staying away from the front, the next person we're going to take a look at is the first recon sniper, and this is pretty simple. First recon sniper is equipped with a first recon beret because, first recon has combat armor, basic. It's not the best armor, but it's a cheap basic armor. Sniper rifle because you have the specialty ability. A blood pack to heal yourself because you do have 7 endurance, so you do want to stay in the fight. And then concentrate fire, so you can get two shots. And how the list is kind of designed is you have a guy right now that is perception 8 on this first shot. If he gets a second shot, it is going to be a 9. Or if it's a quick action, which he can get from General Oliver if he's still within General Oliver's range ability, he is getting it on a 7. So that's pretty good. And don't forget, the snipers have hold breath, so they ignore 1 piece of cover. Now, that is at long range, not at close range, but it's still good enough. And again, the idea is for him to operate kind of independently and alone. Same thing with Boone, which Boone, as you see here, is pretty much, as I stated, Boone doing Boone things. We got Boone with concentrated fire. We got him with the first recon beret because he's the one that gives it to you inside of the game. When you deal with a person that, sold his wife to the Legion because she was a horrible person. Not his wife, the person that sold his wife into slavery. That was awful. Combat armor, basic. Hunting rifle, which again they have the specialty with. And then the hardened receiver. So you really kind of want to keep that firing going. They have a total perception of 7 when using the long rifle, which again, you do have the built-in quick action, and more importantly, you have the built-in ability to critical. So turn 1, you're starting with 1 crit counter already on the hunting rifle, which if you're able to get 2 shots off that turn, pop, 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 you're ready on turn 2 to have the uh, critical shot going. The way I look at it is Boone and the first recon sniper on this list is deployment, deployment, deployment. Placement is the most important thing with these models. Now, a model that can help disrupt your opponent's deployment and maneuverability is the NCR Heavy Trooper. Again, pretty basic, and as I said, he's built to sling missiles. Combat armor. Again, you're noticing I'm going with a lower point cost armor here. Missile launcher, and then heavy gunner, so you can re-roll that one black die. Will heavy gunner be the best option? I don't know. Could you drop heavy gunner and maybe upgrade one of the NCR troopers to an MP? That is possible, but I like having it there to make sure that missile launcher is doing its damage. Now, again, it's move and shoot, so basically you fire, relocate, or relocate, fire, kind of keeping the mobility, and it allows you to operate either independently like how the new snipers are, or having it advance alongside your standard line troopers, which, let's take a look at the troopers. First is going to be your radio person. Pretty simple. NCR trooper, combat armor, again, pretty stable throughout this force. A cowboy repeater this time. Now, the reason why I'm going with the cowboy repeater is it does have a black and green range that has a pretty good solid range. And more importantly, it's for the dice. Yes, it's 1 damage base, which is like but it's 2 black at long or 2 black and 1 yellow at close range. So you have the potential of doing a fair amount of damage with it, depending on how your dice rolls go. Yeah, you can give them rifleman and a couple other abilities to make the shooting better, but I wanted to make sure whatever shot this NCR trooper made would hit and do some damage. Again, now I gave them the NCR engineer jumpsuit, again for that objective play, and the NCR emergency radio, because in my mind, I kind of see the person that's hacking, like the guy that's running to objective A, provide cover fire, pow, kind of operating that way. Then, the list has two of these guys. Pretty simple. NCR trooper, combat armor, cowboy repeater, concentrated fire. You have 2 of these guys with the NCR radio person. Well, it's still an NCR trooper, so you essentially have 3 troopers to move up and kind of take, but you don't want to separate them. You want them to kind of be in like a little bit of a brick. The missile launcher providing support all over kind of back, hanging back so you can give them the activations, and then you're going to have the snipers way in the back. But again, don't get in close combat. As you've noticed, I haven't given any of these troopers melee weapons, so do not get into close combat. You do not want to get in close combat. Super mutants will tear you apart. The pack is not what you want to go into. I mean, and more importantly, the Legion you don't want to get into close combat with. But again, the idea is you're supposed to put enough firepower and use the dodge ability to try to mitigate the ability of your enemies getting close. And again, it all depends on terrain and how you do. But that is, for the Republic, the first list. Now, I'm going to share a list that I actually have used a few times. Well, a version of it. It's actually a list that I really enjoy. I kind of like the idea of the lone gunslinger, especially because of Fallout New Vegas, because of the, big iron on the hip. So I call this list the Gunslinger of Alcatraz. The army's led by an NCR vet ranger, basically built as a gunslinger. Again, we got a first recon sharpshooter because, again, you need that sniping ability. It provides help. We got an NCR trooper, surprise, surprise, missile slinger again. We have a NCR trooper
to work as a radio operator, and then we have 2 NCR baseline troopers. The concept for this list is that you have basically a guy running up the battlefield. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I did the wrong sound effect. You know the big bad and wow, the good, the bad, and the ugly sound effect. That's what I was going for there, not the sad noise. But all right, the gunslinger. Pretty much, it's a gunslinger. So the first thing you have is the NCR Vet Ranger, equipped with heavy combat armor. We have them heroic, so you can get free actions and you get the crit action. The crit action, more importantly. They're ghoulish. Ooh. So yes, I have a gunslinging ghoul. This list was actually built before the TV show. It's actually modeled after Raoul, but you know, whatever. We have the gunslinger perk, and then for the gun slinging, the big iron, I went with what I view as that gun. The 12.7 millimeter pistol with comfortable grip, which means you're shooting at perception 8 with a pistol. The armor I made as custom fitted, so that way you can really move around, kind of giving not to be limited by any quick action you're going to take. It allows you to have some mobility. I also have eyeglasses, which increases my base perception to 7, which means when I shoot at short range, due to the comfortable grip, we're resolving it at 9s, which is pretty good. We don't have concentrated fire here, so it's kind of, you gotta deal with the negatives. Now, we do have a Chinese officer sword. I did give them a sword, because I thought it would be cool. They have a Pip-Boy, and then here's the cool part. I decided to, by using the ghoulish ability, any radiation damage you're dealt is counted as healing. So instead of giving them stim packs, I went with Nuka Cherry and Nuka Cola. They're both really good at healing, and they give you a quick action. More importantly, they give you radiation damage. So actually, the Nuka Cola Cherry is here healing you for 5 and giving you a quick action. And then if you drink the Nuka Cola, it heals you for 4 and gives you a quick action. Now you'll notice that I'm generating a lot of abilities to get quick actions, and you can only do like 1. But the idea is that you will have the ability to take advantage of that dodge mechanic that the faction has baseline. So it's really built to kind of take advantage of it. Now, I did give them a command ability, a leader card, and that was Commander. It's the same one I gave Oliver. And again, this is to remember the NCR faction ability. It's made to give the NCR force more actions to keep the pressure on. Because again, this gunslinger needs his protection, needs to be backed up by the guys. And because of this, it allows you to use the 2 actions that the other troopers would have base, because, oh, then they get the quick action, boop, boop, make a prepare, you're good to go. Following up is the first recon sniper, which is pretty simple, very similar to the other one. This time, I gave them penetrator instead of concentrated fire. Really built to just be, you got to get those shots in. First recon Barrett, because Beret. I don't know why I'm saying Barrett or Barrett. Beret. Because again, it is their signature item. Combat armor, not the best. I did give them incinerate ammo, because incinerate ammo is annoying. And fire damage is a very powerful thing in Wasteland Warfare. And of course, the sniper rifle. Pretty basic, pretty stock. It's a different loadout than the For the Republic one, but at the same time, very simple. Now, speaking about simple, we went with the similar radio operator. Now, this one's a little bit different than the previous one. I gave them concentrated fire with a trail carbine.
better damage output base than the Cowboy Repeater. I actually kind of like the Shoal Carbine a little bit more, but I wanted to go with that weapon instead of the Cowboy Repeater. Also, again, as I stated, I like it a little better. Gave them the Life Giver perk, and again, the Emergency Radio. Unlike the other list where it had more of the objective play character, this is more of you want the Ranger to be keeping up the pressure. Then following it up is you have the baseline troopers that are going to be making up the list. Now these troopers have concentrated fire, just like the operator, trail carbine, and combat armor. Because again, you want to be using the prepare actions that you'd be getting from the ghoul, the gunslinger, the gunslinger of Alcatraz. Um, is command ability to give them the prepare action, and then they can concentrate fire during their own activation. And that's kind of what you want to be doing. Now, we do also have the heavy trooper. So then closing out the list, as stated, is the missile launcher. Now this guy's built a little bit different than the previous one. I mean, yes, it's NCR heavy trooper with heavy gunner. This time though, with sturdy combat armor, so a little bit more durable, a missile launcher, obviously, and a baton to just whack at someone that comes close. I mean, with agility 3, it's not great, but I was thinking that like maybe try it out with a baton. Um you never know. Just a way to kind of defend yourself if you get attacked in close combat, which more than likely the missile launcher is going to be gone after pretty quickly. I know that if I was to face my own my list, which is this one, if I was facing against it and I was playing my super mutants, I can tell you right now where my dogs, where the hounds would be going after. They'd be going after the sniper and after the missile launcher trooper. So you really want to take advantage of like the defense ability. Now, as you saw, the list is very much built, even though the gunslinger can walk up the board and drop people as he's fanning the hammer. It is built to use again that commander ability leader card, so you can truly take advantage of the NCR special rule, which again is that dodge ability, which needs the prepare actions, which you get through the quick actions, because you can always take a prepare action as a quick action, which is fantastic. Now we come to the final list. I like to call this force send in the next wave. It's built as a traditional NCR list, kind of like how you would actually see them in battle, more so than how the other two lists were one built around Oliver's abilities, and the other one was built around my list built around a gunslinger. This list has a NCR veteran ranger as a leader. They're going to be kind of like your base, what you would expect from a veteran ranger. 3 standard troopers built to just be troopers, nothing special. One of them is a radio operator. Of course, as you'll notice, that's kind of a tendency. A heavy trooper with missiles, again. Then you have a civilian ranger. They're there for objective play. And then you have the patrol ranger to work in conjunction with the civilian ranger or the NCR troopers. So this list has a lot of like covering fire, kind of designed to support itself. This list also doesn't really have the same sniper effects like the For the Republic public list definitely did, but again, it's still focusing more on that long range firepower. And even the gunslinger list had a bit of sniper element. This list, not so much. But that said, let's take a look at the leader. The leader is going to be your stock NCR veteran ranger. I gave him the first recon beret. Beret. I keeps trying to say Barrett, but I mean beret. The classic anti-material rifle,
then the Ranger Sequoia, base combat armor, a fresh melon, and I felt that the best leader card for the veteran NCR Ranger, well, at least for this example of the list, is of course the veteran ability. Next up, we have an NCR stock trooper, combat armor and combat rifle this time, just for the dice selection and also different equipment. The first one is equipped with an NCR radio. So again, you can get that close-in sniper support. Then you get two NCR baseline troopers that are equipped with combat armor and combat rifle. That's it. You have a heavy trooper. This time again, no NCR salvaged armor. This one's pretty basic. No heavy gunner this time, just a missile launcher and sturdy combat armor. Pretty straightforward. Then you have the Civilian Ranger. The Civilian Ranger is built to be a gunslinger, so it's got the 12.7 millimeter pistol as always, with that comfortable grip. It's got sturdy combat armor with ballistic weave, giving it a total of a physical block of 4 and an energy of 3. So pretty tanky. And eyeglasses. So you're really going to be able to get in those hits. And then, because of using the 12.7 millimeter pistol, I went with the Gunslinger perk because, again, it's all black dice and concentrated fire, really trying to give you that ability to fan the hammer. It's also designed to operate in close combat, oddly enough, because of the CQB rule where it can use a pistol in close combat and you use the melee attack and ignore the penalty for using a ranged weapon. Now, the other reason why it's armed with the pistol is because you want it for the objective play. You have the hack of 7 and you have the lockpick of 6. You really, really want to be using that to do your objectives. While the NCR troopers in this list are trying to send bullets downrange. And then you have an NCR veteran troop, not a veteran trooper, an NCR patrol ranger. This one is pretty deadly. We gave them the start off with a grenade launcher. Give it that area effect. So another area effect blast weapon, just like the missile launcher on the NCR heavy trooper. And with this one, it's a little shorter range, obviously, because it's not a missile launcher, and a little less damage, potentially. But still, I find it's a good weapon. Now, I gave it the long barrel to increase the short and long ranges by 1 color to give you that little bit of extra range. So you're approaching the same range as the missile launcher, but not the double black, obviously. Sturdy combat armor, and ballistic weave again, so it has a similar armor of that. It has the exact same armor of that of the Civilian Ranger and a fresh melon. This one, funny enough, is given concentrated fire and penetrator for the perks, because my head concept is that he's going to be China Laking those grenades or using a thumper to get those grenades downrange. You just kind of, I like the idea of having essentially a secondary heavy trooper without being limited by having the heavy weapon. But because of the, it's not in power armor, it's not in that, I don't feel like it's that oppressive. I could be wrong. But overall, it's, again, you got 2 guys doing blast damage, 1 guy running up to do objectives with gunslinging the whole way. You got three troopers, 1 that can call in support, and then the veteran ranger in the back just clanking away with the anti-material rifle. Or if you get close, they're also packing that big iron, aka the Ranger Sequoia. This is a list that is built more to be more thematic with the NCR and less of relying on, again, General Oliver's ability, not John Oliver.
and not relying on a heroic gunslinger. So I feel this is kind of like the standard-ish stock list. It's still pretty a lot of fun. It's pretty good. Overall, I feel all three lists are an enjoyable force to mess around with, and it gives you some flexibility within the faction and showing you different ways to play the faction. Again, the NCR does have a limited model pool, and without the melee capability, unless you're taking like the courier, you're kind of stuck with building long range forces. And I kind of liked each one of these as they're a drastically different list. One's using off of, again, the command abilities of General Oliver. One's built around the gunslinger, and now one's just kind of bodies on the board. All right, those were the three army lists, and now I'm going to go over my comments, concerns, and things I'd like to see in the faction down the line. So now onto my comments, concerns, missing units, things I'd like to see. Overall, I think the NCR is a fantastic faction. I really like how they're represented, simple, easy to play. I have no real complaints outside of can we get a melee person? Um, and that's about it. Oh, there is actually three things I would like to see for the faction. One, can we get the chosen one? I know. I would love to see the chosen one put into the NCR. Generally, I'd just like to see the chosen one added into the game, anyways. The chosen one is the main character from Fallout 2. The next thing I'd like to see is, well, Chauncey. I would like to see a super mutant ranger added in. Um, or at least have the access of certain types of super mutants to be taken within the NCR. As we know, the NCR does have super mutants and ghouls as a part of their army and a part of their citizenry as well. So that'd be kind of cool is to see like that element added into the game. Is that aspect of a first gen super mutant, or maybe a I hate to use the word a dum dum, one of the second generation super mutants as a part of the force. Following that, there is one thing I really want added in to the NCR, and that is that power armor, that Ranger power armor that you see in the Amazon show. Like, with those missiles, with the oh my god. I mean, there's a way to represent it clearly. I mean, you put a guy in power armor, give him like a grenade launcher. Oh, ooh, actually, that's not a bad idea. But you can do things like that. That's what I would like to see for the NCR. So that is the power armor from the TV show, the Chosen One, and Chauncey. Um, Oh, maybe one other thing that could be added in. And this is like a debatable thing because you have the NCR Veteran Ranger, but I think it'd be cool to see maybe one of the Desert Rangers added in as a separate card. But then again, you can use the three other Ranger cards that are, well, the three Ranger cards that are currently within the faction as a Desert Ranger. I mean, nothing stops you from doing that to represent them. Um, Also, I would like to see the riot armor put in, like the proper riot armor, so that way we have a better ranger armor. That's something that I would like to see. But really, outside of that, I think the NCR are in a great spot, and I feel like the NCR is a great faction to start the game with because they have a very core base mechanic. Um, Compared to the Zadians, which are a little bit more focused around their ability, the NCR, it's like a little bit of flavor added on. Nothing too extravagant. It just allows you to play the army and go from there. But you do have to build around that ability. That is something that I would suggest strongly is if you know you're playing NCR, try to build around their faction ability more so than you would with some of the other factions. So, with that said, remember, you want to fight at range. Don't get engaged in close combat. If you do, have a way to support those models that are in close combat with long range firepower. have fun. Remember, it's just a game. And, thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed what I said here, or if you disagree, or you have comments, please feel free to make the comments down below. And if you do enjoy what I did here, please give me a thumbs up, like and subscribe, and ring the bell for notification, as it does help this channel growing out, and we are just getting started. I do plan on releasing more content more regularly. And all right, again, thanks for watching.